we have with us the Peugeot 2008. Let's do a review. So the Peugeot 2008 was introduced in the Philippines sometime last year, specifically during the Manila International Auto Show. Since then, it has been the entry-level model into the Peugeot Philippines lineup. So we have it with us once again. We'll also be checking that out. But before we talk about how this drives, let's check out the exterior and the interior. You can get this in one variant only, which is priced at 1,750,000 Philippine pesos. Now looking at the exterior, we think that the 2008 is one of the best looking crossovers on the market. If other Peugeots are lions, this is a cub. We get full LED lighting in front with DRLs that look like a claw scratch. We also get a very nice frameless front grille with a very distinct pattern. The side features very unique lines which just make this different. This rides on 17-inch alloy wheels wrapped in Goodyear tires, and they really match the car, but we think 18s would be better. You'll also notice that this is equipped with Thule Evo crossbars and Thule Vector roof box, allowing for additional storage. Also notable is that despite that, it still fits in most parking garages with no issue. In addition, Peugeot Philippines test unit fleet is fueled by Shell V-Power. Now towards the back, it gets even more distinct with the 3D Lion Claw LED taillights, which gives Peugeot its identity. And once you open the manual tailgate, we get between 300 to 400 liters of space, I believe. While small, its rectangular shape does make it much easier to fill up. And now we're inside the Peugeot 2008, but first, let's start it first. So to start the vehicle, you actually have to hold the start button. There we go. So now looking at the interior of this, you can see that it's actually very unique for what we can, for any other crossover in this segment. So there are actually like 2 or 3 levels of different layers here, so it actually looks very unique. It looks very pleasing to the eyes, although for some people it might look a bit messed up, but I personally think that this looks really good for my eyes. Then materials are actually on the cheaper side compared to what I was expecting. So we have hard touch plastics on top and then some faux carbon fiber material right here in the middle. So it's actually a bit soft, but it's still pretty hard. Yeah, but it is a bit soft. Then let's just turn on the AC. There we go. So same goes for the door panel. So we do have some hard touch plastics on top, a little bit of that faux carbon fiber, and then more hard plastics and some leather for the armrest. But nevertheless, despite having rather cheap materials for its price, it does feel really nice. It does feel really solid. It does feel very well built. Then going to the steering wheel, we do have the same steering wheel that you see in other Peugeot vehicles like the 3008 and 5008. So it's really compact. It has a flat top, it has a flat bottom. It really looks good. I'm not a fan of 2-spoke steering wheels, but in this case, it is very nice. And then the horn, so it does sound very weak. It doesn't match how this car looks on the outside. So it's actually really funny. It sounds really funny, but it's very easy to change. Now going back to the steering wheel, we do have our tilt and telescopic adjustment. So as you can see here, that is a lot of adjustment. So that's really nice. So it really helps us get a better driving position. And also, because of that adjustment, we do have a really nice view of this instrument cluster on top of the dashboard. So our instrument cluster is placed a bit higher, which is something that's also very unique in the segment, or in actually pretty much any vehicle that we can find on the market today. Then it also has this very nice 3D like design. So it actually looks really cool. If you look at it from the left, if you look at it from the right, it does change how it looks. And also we can adjust the colors. We can view some information for our trip computer. So we have our trip A, trip B, trip 1 and trip 2, our current fuel range and our fuel economy. Everything is over there. Our fuel level, engine temperature, they're all there. And then moving towards the center, we do have a rather small infotainment system. What we have here is a 7-inch touchscreen with some touch sensitive buttons on the side. So this also has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is of course very nice. So this screen is rather responsive. It's decently responsive. It's not the most responsive, but it does get the job done really well, much better than some other vehicles. And then it's also very easy to read, although menus might be a bit confusing to some. So this infotainment system is very French, complicated. Then also going to the Apple CarPlay, of course, that makes everything easier. So everything that you want from CarPlay is always here, of course. Then also we adjust here our climate control. So unfortunately we have to do it there on the screen. All the controls are up here, unfortunately. So we have our fan speed, then our temperature, And then our different zones and automatic setting, some options. And then down here, we do have some more controls for the aircon, although it's only for the recirculation, to turn it off, and to put it on the max setting. Right next to that, we have our hazard button, door locks, and then our defoggers for the front and rear windshield. So these controls are actually really nice. Also, we have a volume knob right next to those. And then moving further down, we do have a lot of storage over here and two USB ports, so one on the left and one on the right for our infotainment system. Then again, lots of storage. We have two levels, so we can put here on top our wallet, then somewhere on the bottom maybe we can put keys or maybe some coins, then also a 12-volt power outlet down there. Then here in the center console, we do have our gate type shifter over here. So it's not doesn't feel the most solid, but it does feel good to the hand, and also the shape is actually really nice. And then putting it in reverse, it does show us our reverse camera with a mini top-down view. It's not the top-down view of the entire car because we don't have a 360 camera, but this does do. Then moving further back, we do have two cup holders and our electronic parking brake and our drive mode selector. So we have eco, normal, and sport. Talking about the seats now, we do have these very comfortable seats. They're very well supportive, although I must say that I was hoping at this price that these seats are already powered, but I guess these will do for now, and actually very easy to adjust. And the material itself is actually really nice. It's not real leather, but it does feel really good. And now we're here at the back of the 2008, and honestly there's really not much to find over here, especially if you compare it with other models in the segment. So first, we don't have aircon vents, so we only have a storage area over here, and I don't think we can put that many stuff over here as well. Maybe just a power bank or a wallet or maybe your phone. Then we also don't have a center armrest over here, so that's actually something that I really wish that we have over here. But the seats themselves are actually very comfortable. They're really nicely positioned, so we have a really good seating position back here. And same for the leg room, foot room, knee room, everything feels really spacious. Headroom is a bit on the tighter side, but this will do for someone my height. I'm 5 feet and 7 inches tall. Then materials are the same as in front, hard touch, card, but we do have some leather for the armrest. And also, we have two back pockets behind both front seats. So I guess now we can go back to the drive. And now we're back on the road, and I think there's gonna be a thunderstorm happening in a few minutes, so let's just make this quick. But anyway, let's talk about the engine of the 2008 first. So this is powered by a 1.2 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder gasoline engine that produces 130 horsepower and 230 newton meters of torque. So 130, 230, and that is paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission. Of course, this is not new to us. We've driven the 2008 before, and just like before, we still really love how this performs, because you won't feel like this engine is weak at all. It has smaller numbers if you compare it to its competition like the Honda HR-V or the Geely Coolray, but still, it does feel like it can stand on its own. It doesn't feel like it's gonna be weak. It doesn't feel like you're gonna lose out on those vehicles. And at the same time, it also sounds really good. So let's just slow down a bit and give this a little acceleration. You can hear how this engine sounds. So let's go. So that really sounds good. It sounds like a V6 engine, but that's typical of most 3-cylinder powered vehicles. So one thing I really like is how smooth this accelerates, because the transmission shifts really smoothly. Then also, for a 3-cylinder, the engine isn't rough at all. Power delivery is also really good, so just put your foot down, and the vehicle instantly responds to your inputs. And then moving to how it drives, so we have the really compact steering wheel, which also aids in us having a really good driving experience. So it handles really well actually. So body roll is limited, especially when you take corners at somewhat of a higher speed, so that actually feels really good. You can feel confident while driving this vehicle. Also, steering is actually quite light, so that's what you expect from most vehicles these days. So this has very light electric power steering, and still, despite it being light, it does feel like it does provide you, you can feel that it does provide you with plenty of feedback, which is very important because many of cars these days have very vague steering systems. This one still provides lots of feedback. Now it's getting dark and windy outside, but let's just continue. So going back to the handling, again, like I mentioned, we have a very little bit of body roll, so you can hardly feel it, and that's something that I really appreciate. But it's not surprising as well, because this vehicle is actually really low. And then You can really feel confident while driving this at high speed. It feels very stable. It just feels great to drive. So it's I think it's one of the best, or one of the better options you can get in the segment. And also, when you put it on sport mode, the steering does actually get a little bit heavier, so it's actually much appreciated. It does feel really good, especially when you put it on sport. So I just put it on sport now, and we can instantly feel the difference of how this vehicle drives. And then when it comes to NVH insulation, road noise is very much non-existent, so I really like that. Although on rougher patches of roads, it does tend to be quite loud, so that's expected from European cars. Based, at least on the European cars that I've driven, most of them are like that. But on the highway, it is really quiet in terms of road noise. Wind noise, on the other hand, it does get quite loud, especially at higher speed. Although I'm not surprised with this one, because we do have that roof box installed, so that does add a bit more to the wind noise. So that's already a bit expected with this vehicle. Maybe without that, it would have been a bit quieter. I don't remember exactly from the previous test drive, but at least on this one, it is a bit louder at higher speed thanks to the roof box. As for ride quality, it's also really good. So for the most part, it's very smooth. It's what you'd expect from a crossover. That's why we buy crossovers, because we love their ride quality. But at the same time, it is a bit stiff. It is a bit on the stiffer side when you're driving inside the city. But it's nothing bad. It's not bothersome at all. You actually won't notice it most of the time. But yeah, so it is a bit on the stiffer side, but at least still very smooth. And finally, let's talk about fuel economy, because that's another place where this vehicle shines. So when we had the previous test drive, we actually drove that from Manila to Cavite, back to Manila, specifically San Juan, Mandaluyong area, and then straight to Pampanga, back to Manila, and back to Pampanga, and back to Manila again. And we all did that just with using 3/4 of the fuel tank. And I think it's gonna be the case again this time. We're currently in Pampanga, and again, it's very fuel efficient, so we're actually able to average around 10 kilometers per liter when driving inside the city, and around 20 kilometers per liter on the highway. So very good fuel economy numbers for this vehicle. The Peugeot 2008 is a great car. It's fun to drive, comfortable, and really stands out compared to other crossovers. The only letdown is the price, really, because you can get so much more with its Japanese competitors. Still, nothing beats the feeling of driving a European car.